So working from home does appeal to millions of people around the world, but as vaccination rates improve and workers return to the office, many companies are now being forced to find ways to balance remote and office work. So a hybrid work model is now gaining momentum as a possible solution. In fact, human capital consultancy 21st Century is currently seized with some of those issues. Let's discuss it with Executive Director Craig Roth, who joins us now via our video link. So, Craig, it's a possible solution, isn't it? This sort of hybrid model of some workers being at the office while others work from home, in terms of blending the types of work in this new world of work that we're faced with post-COVID-19.
Absolutely, Michelle, and I think, first of all, good morning to yourself and to your listeners. I think to answer the question, let's take a step back to March next year when we all got thrust into this fourth industrial revolution and every business had to make a plan and really got up to speed relatively quickly and started communicating with using the digital and online platforms. And the initial fears were that performance was going to suffer, how organizations going to control employees, how were outputs and productivity going to be measured.
Yeah.
And what transpired was that organizations were turning around and saying, well, hang on a second, performance hasn't diminished. In fact, we're sitting with an opposite problem where employees are perhaps working too hard, and the lines between your work life and your home life were getting fundamentally blurred, and that started becoming the issue. Fast forward to the start of this year, and especially going in and out of the various lockdowns we've had in the country, and leaders were turning around and saying, well, hang on a second. Yes, productivity didn't take a hit in the beginning, but what we're noticing now is that we are experiencing some serious engagement issues, and we are losing on a sense of community, on information sharing, on silo behavior, and really the consequences of this fully remote working was playing out and having a really dramatic effect on an integrated culture in organizations.
So let me ask you this, Craig, in terms of the issue of engagement issues that you've just talked about, and I think you're alluding to the fact that, you know, when we're in those Zoom meetings with the office, we don't switch on our video, we probably don't even get dressed for the meeting, we're sitting there in our PJs, we don't really even see our colleagues unless you're presenting a project to the rest of the team, for example. What kind of impact does that have on a company, its productivity, its bottom line, when we're getting the work done, but we don't really interact with each other on a human level?
Yeah, and that wasn't apparent in the beginning, and what we've realized over time is that when we first entered this COVID-induced remote working, it was new, right? So everyone was excited. We were all dealing with new technologies, relating in different ways. In fact, if I relate it back to our organization, I found out more about my colleagues and got richer information because we were forcing team meetings where the agendas were around most embarrassing moment, favorite holiday destination, et cetera, But over time, when you get that natural attrition and you're trying to onboard new employees into an environment, you cannot beat face-to-face. So really a lot of the consulting we're doing in this space is around intentional presence and energy transfer, rather than a situation where leaders are turning around and saying, hang on, this isn't working, everyone come back to the office, or pick 2 days or 3 days, depending on what the hybrid approach looks like. And we're finding that fundamentally doesn't work because I mentioned sense of community, information sharing, and silo behavior. We found that approach was exacerbating those problems. The same teams were coming in on the same days and operating in the same silo mentality.
So then, in your opinion, if you're wanting to, as a business owner, implement some kind of hybrid system insofar as work and office time is concerned, what's the best way to do that?
Perfect. First of all, it's a bespoke process. there's no blanket answer for all organizations. If we just take a factory or retail environment versus an IT or high-tech environment, the hybrid model is not going to look the same. So really it's about focusing on that intentional presence. And what I mean by that is choose the meetings where you get the advantage of looking colleagues in the eye. There's a lot of efficiencies that can be had by onboarding the learnings that we've had in the last few months. And Zoom is great for agenda-driven meetings where you need to get through a set of agenda points and build an efficiency. Where you need influence and nuance, those are the meetings that work better face-to-face. Yeah. And what we are finding is that that hybrid is here to stay, and that it's an incredibly important lever in your employee value proposition. But you have to get it right, and you have to ensure that employees are sharing the space for the right reasons, and that's where I want to come to the energy transfer. Yeah. And those intentional presence meetings create that energy transfer, and we're finding that employees aren't going home after those meetings. They're staying in the office. They are engaging in the community, and they're doing those meetings that get most value from being face to face. Yeah,
I mean the employees themselves, in as much as there have been many positives to this hybrid way of work. We do miss that kind of interaction with our colleagues.
Yep. Correct, and that's a very good point, because sometimes employees don't know what they're missing, and there's a big sense out there that leadership are aware of the problem, and employees there's a resistance to coming back to the office because we're used to working like this. But what being in the office does is it gives employees that psychological safety. That's really a word that's getting used more and more in the workplace now, where it gives them the comfort that they're on track. They're getting the positive feedback. They're getting the coaching and the mentoring that's really missing in a fully remote environment.
Yeah. I want to just, as we round off our interview this morning, Craig, talk to you about the benefits of the past year and a half of work insofar as the wellness of employees is concerned. As you said, people were spending more time at home. They were working from home more, but it also meant that they had the opportunity to spend time with family more in some respects. That kind of benefit in terms of overall health and wellness for employees who are managing their own time, essentially, but they are getting the work done.
Nail on the head, and that's exactly what we are trying to do by putting in this bespoke hybrid model in organizations, is to leverage off the learnings and enjoy the benefits of the flexibility, and enjoy the benefits of having other focuses in your life, other priorities. Running before work instead of sitting in traffic. So exercise, family, spending time and taking your kids to school, etc., etc. And if we can get that right, and ensure that there's no inequality in the system, because that's a big thing. Post COVID, when we adopt this as a model going forward, what you don't want is the employee who chooses to spend the bulk of time at home being unfairly prejudiced against the employee who chooses to be in the office and has that presence with leadership.
And of course, it all translates into a better bottom line. That's certainly, in terms of the research we're seeing now, healthy, happier employees. It translates into really better profits for the company.
Correct, Michelle, and really the employees of choice going forward are going to be the companies that nail this hybrid working approach, and really onboard the benefits and get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig Roth, thanks very much indeed for your time on such an incredibly important issue as we just unpack how the world of work has changed post-COVID-19. He's with Human Capital Consultancy, 21st Century. Craig Roth, thanks very much indeed.